Well, hi there. Welcome. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. And unless you have been on a deserted island, unless you've been playing Gilligan, if you've gone Gilligan lately, then maybe you haven't noticed what everyone is talking about. It's politics. It's elections. My goodness, it is ad nauseum. It seems like we're never not in a presidential election cycle anymore. But today is actually an election day, kind of what we call, sort of like not a huge election day. It's an off year, for president and stuff like that. There's only a few gubernatorial races, some local races, and so forth. But Debbie, we thought it would be good to invite our listeners' takes on voting Catholic. So we're asking you, dear listeners, do you vote Catholic? And there's so many related issues to this, Debbie, that we can get into.
It's a very hot topic, actually, to talk about, and I think this is why it's a great place on Take Two for us to join in and share our takes on this. If you vote Catholic, what do you feel about that? Do you even espouse to be Catholic in the voting booth? I mean, do you feel it's necessary? Do you feel it's the prerequisite in order to even vote? Tell us what you think. Let's explore it. Let's converse about it. Let's debate about it and see where we come to at the end of the show. Hopefully it'll be a lot closer and a lot more well-formed in our faith, and it'll allow us all to grow closer to God. Number to dial is 1-800-585-9396. You'll get to listen live when you talk to Matt Gabinski, our call screener. He's wonderful, and so you won't miss anything. So you'll be totally part of the show and part of the conversation even when you're on hold. So call in. We want to hear from you about this very important topic. 1-800-585-9396.
Yeah, maybe you've got a take on whether there even is a, quote, Catholic vote anymore. Are you old enough to remember maybe, I don't know how far we'd have to go back, Debbie, to when there really was, the politicians would sit up and take notice of the so-called Catholic vote. Nowadays, today, I'm not even sure that it even bothers them in the slightest, because we've got, of course, so many Catholics voting like they're not Catholic, like their faith doesn't matter in the voting booth. So how do you, dear listeners, what is your take? How do you let your faith, your Catholic faith, if you're not a Catholic, maybe you're, if you're a non-Catholic Christian, how does your faith inform your vote at the polls? 1-800-585-9396.
And here come the calls, and that's a good sign. Everybody wants to weigh in and share their take on this important topic. So the number to dial, 1-800-585-9396. And Jerry, I know that we had Bishop Olmsted on in a previous show talking about his booklet, Catholics in the Public Square. It's a wonderful booklet to help form us in our faith and have a well-formed conscience, especially in terms of voting. And you can see that resource and look at it and review it at diocesephoenix.org, Catholics in the Public Square. But one of the parts, Jerry, that this is the thing I just would love to throw out there and to start the discussion, and that is, it always baffles me, Jerry, completely baffles me, because if Catholics would just vote on the premise of the non-negotiables of our faith, then we would really, pretty much control, a lot of what goes on in our government. And it just bothers me tremendously when people take those non-negotiables, like protecting life at all its stages, from conception to natural death, natural structure of the family, one man, one woman, the rights of parents to be the educators of their children, and they kind of put them aside for whatever other issues they think that may impact them personally. That always bothers me and baffles me, and I would love to talk about it and see if somebody could kind of, shed some light as to why, because I know I can't do that. I can't walk into a voting booth and just lay my understanding of the faith and what I believe in so deeply. I can't just put it aside. So I'm always curious as to how people can do that.
All right, our number is 1-800-585-9396. Something else that we can consider, of course, we don't endorse, candidates or parties on this program. We can talk about the different parties and the issues, and I'll just come right out and say, dear friends, I am a registered independent. This may ruffle some feathers, but I think we have, when we have the government and the media just continually pounding into us that it's got to be one or the other of the two party, Democrat or Republican. That is nowhere to be found in the founding documents of this country, that we're a two-party government. Unfortunately, I believe we have basically two wings of the same party. One is just a little bit more liberal than the other. You get good candidates, quite frankly, in both parties. But so when you go to the poll, I knew someone very dear to me, Debbie, who very, very devout Catholic, and her family, all of her life growing up, and all of their family, they were just staunch Democrats. And so this person would go into the poll and look for the D next to the candidate's name. I mean, there wasn't any thought process about, let's see, what does this candidate stand for versus the opponent of this candidate. It was like D, 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 and I'm not
Right.
criticizing Democrats. I mean, there are people who go to the polls and go R, R, R. I mean, we've got to be thinking people. This is the point I'm trying to make. So how, dear listeners, how do you critically think and use your faith to form that thought process when you get into the voting booth? I'm getting a little bit worked up about this, Debbie, because like you said, if Catholics were voting like Catholics, this country and the world would look a lot different.
Absolutely. Jerry, you are right on. And I think you said it so perfectly. The thing that when you were talking, Jerry, you know what I kept thinking of? When you said that you go in and you look for the D or you look for the R, those secular labels divide us. Those secular labels are misleading. They are confusing. They keep us off of the point. Our label, our letter that we should be aspiring to is the big capital C. We are Christ followers. We are Catholic. And that is, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, all of a sudden I had this aha moment. It just dawned on me. The secular labeling is what's keeping us apart from our Catholic values. Let's aspire to something greater, and that is to being a Catholic Christian, a follower of Christ. Wow, I already got my takeaway already, and the show just started. Dear listeners, jump in, 1-800-585-9396. I know we're getting ready for a break right now. When we come back, the phone lines are just completely filling up. You have a lot to share. This is great. But stay with us. We're talking about, do you vote Catholic? This is an important topic and a safe conversation for us to talk and really explore what it means to be Catholic in this world. Stay with us on Take Two. We'll be right back.
"60 Seconds" with Father Mitch Pacwa.
Within the people of life and the people for life. That's who we are. The people of life and the people for life. Part of our self-identity. The family has a decisive responsibility. This responsibility flows from its very nature as a community of life and love, founded upon marriage and from its mission to guard, reveal, and communicate love. The family and marriage has a mission to guard love, to protect it from false forms of love, from false uses of people, using people and abusing them. It also is to reveal love and communicate love. This is part of the family's and marriage's purpose. You reveal love to the world. People say, oh, marriage is just a piece of paper. That's baloney. This is you saying to the public, I'm loving my wife and my husband and my children till death do us part.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
EWTN Radio is drawing people of all races, nations, and walks of life to the life of Christ.
My father has a physical disability. Because of that, he cannot always make it to the Mass. Thanks to EWTN's airing the daily Mass, he's right there following along.
With satellite radio, I can listen to any show on EWTN's Catholic programming.
EWTN, truly the global Catholic radio network.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. Our topic, do you vote Catholic? And lots of related issues here. Is there even a Catholic vote? What do you do when there really isn't a good choice? I mean, so many times we're just faced with, if we exercise our right and our duty to go into the voting booth, Debbie, sometimes it's literally you have to hold your nose and vote for the lesser of two evils. And that creates a crisis of conflict for a lot of people, Debbie, because what do you do, say, if you've got two pro-abortion candidates? I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of issues here that are being, created by the political system simply because it's just so hard to find any really, noble choices anymore.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really tough thing in this world because nothing is really clear. We're not all kind of functioning on the same playing level, and so you really do have to form your conscience and really go in there with the understanding that, dear Lord, I'm going in trying my hardest to be a Catholic and to vote on the premise of the Catholic faith, and you do your best, and you got to at that point just feel like you had a very good intention to be Catholic in the voting booth. And so that's how I do it. But I know I want to hear from our listeners, and we've got Michelle in Springfield, Missouri, waiting so patiently. Michelle, I think you were the first call in and first one to get screened, so you are ready to go. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hello.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi. I think you've already touched on what I was going to say. It's difficult to vote for someone because, first of all, we don't have any Catholic candidates. We haven't for a long time, actually. And if some are Catholic, they are not the 100% Catholic. They'll believe in this part, but not that part. So it is difficult to go in and vote for our faith because there's always something else about that particular candidate that contradicts their belief. It's like a two-sided coin. They may be against abortion, but they are for the death penalty, for instance. So anyway, I think you already touched on it when I was on hold, but unless we have, I agree with the capital C thing, but unless we have a candidate who is that capital C, who follows Christ, it's very difficult to vote, and I think maybe that prevents a lot of people from voting. Actually,
yeah, Michelle. Let me a couple things you mentioned. First of all, there are Catholic candidates. There are plenty of them. I'm not going to name names. There are a few even running for president. The problem is nowadays it's almost like you got to check that at the door if you want to have any chance. And extending that point a little bit further, I just really believe that if there, I would never run for political office today myself, especially a high office, because the media and the machinery are going to, if you hold to truly Catholic values, if you truly are Catholic across the board, you basically have no chance, because even if you start to get a little bit of momentum, I remember several years ago in one of the elections for president, Pat Buchanan, whom I'm not here to, thumbs up or down. I like the guy, he's a solid Catholic, but he started to win a couple of primaries, and all of a sudden in the media, he was the second coming of Adolf Hitler because of a couple of things he had said way back in his past. So I think any Catholic who has any self-respect and self-dignity and a family that he wants to protect and so forth isn't even going to make the move into politics. That's kind of my opinion. Debbie, I don't know if you've got any thoughts.
No, I totally agree with you. I think you said it perfectly. But so that what we really have to do is I go back to Bishop Olmsted's Catholic in the Public Square when he talks about, are there any non-negotiable issues for Catholics involved in politics? And the non-negotiables obviously are the protection of life at all stages, the recognition of one man, one woman in a union of marriage, the protection of the rights of parents to educate their children, the intrinsically evil kind of things that are happening in the secular world. Those are the non-negotiables. The things about capital punishment and poverty issues and illegal immigration, those things are, like Bishop Olmsted said, they prayerfully need consideration and must look at, but they're not in and of itself intrinsically evil. So I think what we need to do is get back to basics, be catechized in a well-formed way, and understand what are the things we are fighting for as Catholics, and not get mired down in a lot of other details that are going to take us off track. And I think if we focus on a few, this is my personal opinion now, not the church church is teaching. If we focus on a few things and do it well, we gain back respect and we gain back the power, as opposed to kind of shooting like darts all over the place. And people make comments about Catholics, fanatical this and that, and it ruins our real creed of what we believe in as Catholics. And Michelle, I don't know if that imparts any more to your conversation, but I would love to hear any final comments.
Yeah, back to the basics is actually correct. I'm probably one of the last few of the Kennedy Democrats in this world. What was raised in that family setting. But if our candidates would just look at our basic God laws and go from there and live them. And of course, it would take a team effort, and that would be a challenge.
Right, but I love what you had to say. Bring it down to the basics of what we believe in. Michelle, thank you so very, very much. Jerry, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to stomp on top of you, but I just wanted to say to Michelle, thank you for calling in. You live in Springfield, Missouri, Michelle. Please get on our onefaithexperience.com newsletter website and stay in touch with us, because we're launching the One Faith Experience right in your home state of Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri, April 23rd, 2016. So if you go to onefaithexperience.com, you can get on our list, Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle, for the call. 800-585-9396 is our number. 1-800-585-9396. We're going to go next to North Dakota Real Presence Radio. Hello, Dennis. Thank you for calling. Take two with Jerry and Debbie. How are you this morning?
I am very fine, thank you.
Good. And what is your take on this?
Well, I've been involved in politics. I'm sort of a Reagan Democrat coming to the Republican Party with Ronald Reagan. But anyway, I've sort of wondered the same question that's been asked on this program. What's the reason for the voting habits of people? And about 3 or 4 years ago, I came across an article. It's actually a Protestant-based think tank that studied voting habits of people, and they related what happened when the TVs came out in the 50s, and some of the popular TV evangelists came out toting the rapture and, the end of the world is coming real quickly. And according to this think tank, they said that people began changing their attention from eternity onto what's good now. If the end of the world is coming, I'm going to vote for what's good for me now, which was health insurance, recreation, the environment, and all these issues that the government, may or may not have reason to be involved in. And it sort of took away the impetus to think about our grandchildren and what's good for them, the infrastructure in order that we can have good, solid businesses so that we have jobs for our kids, and, the good quality education, teaching kids to read, write, and do arithmetic so that they can succeed in the world. And to me, that article made a lot of sense.
Yeah, Dennis, as you're talking, I was going to actually say this right before going to your phone call, and that is, there's this mantra that we hear about, and it's usually, the key or the important issues, but, it always gets back to the economy. That old saying, it's the economy, stupid, and so many people, even candidates especially, they focus on the economy and the environment and all of this stuff, but again, the economy, they just beat that into the ground, and that may be related to what you're saying, Dennis, because like you said, people want instant gratification. What have you done for me lately, like right now? Okay, yeah, unborn babies are dying, and marriage is in tatters and the family is in total disarray, but hey, how's the stock market doing? And is my portfolio up? And can I afford the extra house at the beach and all this stuff? And so I don't know. That's my thought on that, Debbie. I'm sure you want to weigh in on that as well. But it really does get back to very, very right now, these kinds of things, and the economy seems to dominate when these real important issues just don't get any attention at all.
Yeah, but I think we've lost that kind of looking into the future and taking care of the future in so many things. I mean, not just in politics. I mean, that's the way our whole culture is going. It's all about what's going to happen for me today. You know, am I taken care of? Who cares about everybody else? It's a really sad that we're in a really sad state. It's not a depressing state. It's a sad state because, like I said, I was on Catholic Answers yesterday, Jerry and Dennis, and I was sharing about how when even in our Catholic Church, when somebody steps outside the church and leaves the church or goes elsewhere, we just kind of like sometimes throw that into the statistics of how many left the church. But when that person leaves, there's a void. There is a definite void in our circle. There's a definite void in the body of Christ. And it's vitally important. And if that person is out of the circle, we all suffer. And we forget that. We forget that we're all going to suffer when one suffers. And it's a really sad state of affairs that we're in. And I pray that our future, our kids and our grandkids start to learn that it is important to journey together, you know, soulfully journey together. And I don't know if that even tails off on what you're saying, Dennis, but it's interesting what you learned from what you studied about the, you know, what media does.
Yeah, that is really true. And I actually, I've been in jail 7 times for standing between life and death in front of abortion mills. And anyway, I was involved in politics a little bit, and with the jail record like that, I ran for office, and I lost by 37 votes in the primary, and the opposing, and I made all kinds of mistakes politically, and the opposing party thought that, man, if that guy can come so close to winning on his pro-life stance, they began touting the pro-life issues because they thought, man, pro-life must be really important in this district, and which it is.
Right.
Well, that's another good point, Dennis, and we'll let you go on that because we got a break coming up and a lot of other callers. But really, it does so often get down to expediency. You know, one of the real, I think, very, very pathetic and tragic things that happens is that when a politician switches parties or switches a stance, for example, on the life issues. Mm-hmm. And we see this. How often do we see this? A candidate through early in his or her career will be staunchly pro-life and defending life in all of its stages and so forth. And then when the machinery, the handlers, the party gets a hold of them, and I'm sure they whisper in their ear, you know, you're not going to get where you want to go or where we think or want you to go unless you change on this or that or whatever issue. These flip-flops, they call them. And it's about expediency, Debbie. It's like so many people sell their souls just to get elected. It's this thirst for power that is just, it's really an ugly thing, I think.
Yeah, I agree. You know, the thing about it is I truly have compassion and understanding for those that have educated themselves and come to an awareness, like with the Planned Parenthood videos that came out. And then there was people that were pro-choice and all of a sudden said they saw it and it really touched them deeply. And now they are pro-life and they have changed their view. I get that. That's a growth. That's an understanding that is moving towards a betterment. The thing that always baffles me again is how people can have the truth right in front of them. They own the truth and then they abandon the truth. That to me is devastating. And I cannot fathom it. I can't understand it. That makes no sense to me. And to me, it's really sad for their own spiritual growth because in my opinion, that's going backwards. But anyway, so this is a good conversation. I know we're going to get ready for a break in just a moment. Phone lines. We have one open phone line because we thanked Dennis, and now that line is open. So if you want to jump in, 1-800-585-9396. The others are waiting so patiently. And Jerry, this is a great topic. I'm glad we are discussing it. I was a little apprehensive yesterday because I was thinking, where is this going to go? But, actually, I really feel like it's very, we're learning and growing.
Absolutely, and we always do with your takes, dear listeners. So thank you. Those of you on the line, Dorothy and Mary and Dominic and Linda, and that open line that Debbie said, we're going to get to every one of you. Do you vote Catholic? How important? Well, we know it's important to you, but How do we make a difference as Catholics in the political sphere? Today is an election day in some parts of the country. Our number is 1-800-585-9396.
60 Seconds with Mother Angelica.
You know, you can be too generous. For example, if a man comes home with his paycheck and say he's just got $100, he's got 5 children, he's got rent, gas, and electric to pay, and he sees a poor man there, and he gives him the whole $100. And you say, oh, God's going to reward him. But see, the gas and electric company aren't going to think that way. That man was too generous. Now you say, well, how could he be too generous? He has his family to think about. He has his rent to pay. These are just debts and just obligations. Now he could have given part of that, but to throw away all of it is to use a virtue to an excess. Now you can do that with virtues. You can do that with any good thing.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
This is Patrick Coffin. Join me for Catholic Answers Live. It's 2 hours dedicated to Catholic apologetics and evangelization. Designed for Catholics and non-Catholics alike, it's your opportunity to hear from and talk with some of the leading apologists and theologians in the church today. You've got questions? We've got Catholic answers. Catholic Answers Live, weekdays 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
EWTN is now on Twitter. Get short, timely messages from EWTN on your computer or cell phone. It's easy to stay up to date on a wide variety of topics. Pro-life news, Vatican announcements, catechesis, apologetics, the latest EWTN programming, and more. You can link to EWTN on Twitter from our homepage or go to twitter.com/EWTN. At work, at home, at school, and on the road. Stay connected to your world with EWTN's Twitter page.
Thanks for tuning in to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. Today we're talking about, do you vote Catholic? And the phone lines are full, and that's great. We're having a vibrant discussion already. We'd love to hear from you. So if you want to jump in, it's 1-800-585-9396. But we're going to go right back to the phones because Dorothy, you got the Patience Award today, Dorothy. You've been waiting so patiently from Minnesota. You're listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Dorothy. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi. How are you today?
We are well, thank you.
Doing well, Dorothy.
Good. I wanted to just mention a couple of things, and one you've already alluded to. You know, we could go to the polls and vote Catholic all we want, but we don't know what's going to happen to that candidate once he's ingrained in the system, and the system indeed has some evil components. So that's one point. And the other thing is, I struggle a bit with the church, not doing any kind of, and I'm using this word, excommunication. It's a little bit strong, I think, but we've had representatives who have had extramarital affairs, have been voted for abortion, have been pro-abortion years and years and years, and yet that same senator was allowed to receive communion in a big public forum. And then on the other hand, we're criticizing a same-sex couple who care about one another and are raising children because they love children. So, we talk about our leaders, but we also, as Catholic and members of the church, we pick and choose what we want to support and not support. And, the church allows us to do that, so...
Yeah, Dorothy, you You touch on a lot of important issues here. I think the one that, for the sake of time, I'm just going to select one of those, and you brought up the whole issue of excommunication. And this is one that, is left to the Lord. It's left to the church leadership. Debbie and I mean, we probably, in fact, not probably, I'm sure we do share your frustrations over, Catholic politicians who are, supposedly Catholic, don't live like it, don't vote like it, don't run their political lives like it. And they always try and say, well, my faith is over here and I go to church on Sunday, but, in my career or in my business, and this is a problem really for all of us. We have to be cohesively Catholic. I don't know if that's even a phrase or not, but we cannot compartmentalize our faith. But, Debbie, one thing the church we understand as Catholic Christians, and that is, it does not take a formal decree by a church leader, a bishop, for example, for an individual to be excommunicated. He or she can excommunicate himself or herself by simply, the very act of doing something. For example, someone who has an abortion or assists in abortion or performs an abortion, if that person is a Catholic, he or she is by that very act, I think the Latin is lete sententiae, is excommunicated. It doesn't take a formal decree, although it is true, Debbie, that for the sake of the sheep, for the sake of the flock, sometimes, it might be helpful. And I remember the late Bishop Leo Maher in San Diego did actually excommunicate a Catholic politician one time. This is probably about 30 or 40 years ago. But, this is an issue that's really, I think, left between God and the church hierarchy at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think you said that perfectly, Jerry, and I understand Dorothy's frustration and her great points that she shared. The thing about it is for those of us who are Catholic that understand the teaching in a much clearer way, it's very consistent for us. It's very black and white. We understand it. And when we see these kind of variations or things that are happening that don't make sense to us, it doesn't kind of fall in a path that seems consistent, it is very frustrating. But what I go back to as the lay faithful, we need to totally assist in catechizing our youth and catechizing our adults and be able to stand together and really speak the same, talk the same talk and walk the same walk. And that is how we are going to communicate what is truly authentically Catholic. We can't depend on everyone else to, say, I'm going to, accuse this person of this. I'm going to judge this person because like our Holy Father said, it's not for us to judge, but it is for us to walk the walk and talk the talk. And by our example and by our actions, we can transform this world. The problem is, this is my personal opinion again, the problem is we're disconnected as Catholics. So I just want to thank you, Dorothy. I don't know if that helps or imparts, but you certainly took the conversation to a greater depth, and we appreciate that, Dorothy.
Thank you, and I think you hit it right on. We have to unite as Catholics and as Christians if we're going to make a difference in this world, and I think we can.
Amen. Amen. Let's do it. Okay. This is
all
good.
All right. Thanks, Dorothy. Yeah. 1-800-585-9396, talking about voting as Catholics. How do we understand and participate in the political life of our nation and do so through the lens of our Catholic faith? We're going to go next to Gary, who is in Erie, Ohio. Gary, thank you for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, guys. Really like your show, but I have a kind of a different take on it, and I want to be as respectful as possible because I really do, love your show. But I think if we hide behind, I think we're hiding behind this non-negotiable, and we're leaving a lot that we don't even want to discuss. And I think these poor women that are struggling with this decision of having an abortion, sometimes they're alone, and they start thinking in practical matters to the future of, how can I afford this child? Am I gonna, what can I do? But I'm just saying the Republican Party, the anti-minimum wage, the anti-Affordable Care Act, insurance for everybody. They're against unions. They're against anything that could, practically pull somebody out of that decision-making into a positive. And I think by making it a non-negotiable, that we take that whole argument out, and I think we hide behind that, and I just don't think it's right.
Well, Gary, I would love to just respond to what you have to say, because I understand where your come from is. I totally get that. The one thing I just wanted to kind of share about the non-negotiables is that protection of life in all its stages, from conception all the way to natural death, is something that we hold to the deepest core of our beliefs. To go against that is intrinsically evil. And so when you have something that is intrinsically evil, you must do everything in your power to stop that, because it definitely is damaging to the soul. To your point about women, I just want to share something, because I'm a woman, I've had children, and I just want to share something. It's the culture and the society that stops women from their options. It has nothing to do, in my opinion, with the situation that women, quote unquote, are in, that they feel desperate. The problem is important information is withheld from them. The information about adoption, the information about that child in their womb is a child. Information is withheld, and it forms chaos. And that is exactly where Satan goes right in and distorts and twists and pushes people into decisions. That's why we have women in retreat centers years later that come to grips with the decisions they made. And you know what? They're hurting, and they are so emotionally scarred because, they weren't given the full truth. I think as Catholic Christians, we need to open up the doors and say, you know what, make the information available to everyone, educate everyone, and let people come to the good moral decisions. Because I personally believe, Gary, this is just my personal thought on this. Adoption, gifting over your child to another family. I have several friends that are just absolutely dying to raise a child. Giving that gift to somebody else is the greatest gift you can give to somebody else. Why would a woman choose to end that because they don't think they could afford to pay for that child, when they know that they could give a gift to somebody else and bring life and joy? It's a truly, selfless gift. And so I personally believe, Gary, that we need to just educate. So that's my thought on it. Jerry, I know you want to go back and...
Well, I would love, Gary, I'd love to give you a chance to share some additional. I've got a couple things I could say, but Gary, do you have any thoughts on what Debbie shared?
Yeah, I mean, I am pro-life all the way. Don't get me wrong. I agree with everything that you said, but we've just got to look at, Planned Parenthood needs to be defunded. I definitely agree. But the way we go about it, we tied the defunding of Planned Parenthood to eliminating, repealing the Affordable Care Act. That's irresponsible. That's irresponsible. And I was just going to say, the womb to the tomb. It's not a womb to the tomb. I wish it was. But as long as the Catholic Church says capital punishment is okay, we can't say womb to the tomb. And I think we look like we're fake when we say that. And I'm pro-life all the way. And and I really appreciate what you're saying. But I think we just need to dialogue a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Gary,
Planned Parenthood needs to go away for sure.
Yeah, it's clearly one of the most evil institutions that ever existed. And Gary, I just want to go back to the very beginning of your call, and you said that you were going to offer a different view, and you hope we didn't mind or something. I don't remember how you put it. I just want to tell you and everybody, anyone is welcome to call on this show. Debbie and I are absolutely open to conversations, and we don't. Hopefully, we don't come across as though we have the right answers or all the perfect insights. That's why we always say this show is really a peer-to-peer ministry. We like to invite people like you, Gary, and we're so grateful that you called in. Gosh, I could comment on so many things. I don't know if you were listening at the start of the show, Gary, where I said I just really believe with the two dominant parties, I believe they're basically two wings of the same party. One party may get a couple things right, the other one gets a couple things right. So like you said, we have to find this comprehensive vision that fits with our Catholic faith. And obviously the death penalty. You said as long as the Catholic Church is in favor of it. Well, the Church has come out very strongly against the death penalty in recent years. I have to say, it is not intrinsically evil in the way that abortion is. The state possesses the right to take the life of a criminal if the circumstances are such that that's the only way that individual, if he's going to, possibly go out and wreak more havoc, then the state does possess that right. However, the Church has said recently, and I agree with this, and Gary, it sounds like you would too, there really is no existing circumstances in which, that would be necessary. So we as Catholics have to take the lead of our Church and be fully, like you said, pro-life all the way across the board. So anyway, Gary, I hope that's of some help. Please do keep listening. Thank you for your kind comments about the show. And we've got just jammed phone lines here, so we'll let you go on that, and we'll move on to our other calls. But God bless you, Gary. Thank you for being passionate enough and caring enough to call in and share what you did today.
Yes, thank you. And it's so important. I think out of this conversation we're having, Jerry, I think Gary would agree with this if he's still listening, that we're in line with this, that we need to educate. There's not, knowledge is power. It always baffles me how these young women can go into these clinics, these Planned Parenthood clinics, and not receive an ultrasound. I mean, give them the knowledge, give them the power to make their own decision. Why would you let somebody make a life-altering decision without all the facts? I mean, we buy cars and we learn every single thing about the car, all the cylinders, all this, all the whatever. But yet we go into a clinic and we're ready to do something to our body and not know all the angles of it and what's happening. I mean, it's amazing to me how in this day and age, we could allow women to blindly go in there and have something done to them that could change their body forever, and it changes their emotional state, changes their soul state forever. Well, not forever.
Yeah,
I mean, there's chance to change about that. But I'm saying, you know what I'm saying? It alters them. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say we need a Carfax for life, Life Fax or something like that. But and just really one more quick thing on Dennis's call there. I agree completely. I would this may hit a lot of ears as sounding odd, but I think there could be very, very little to no objective guilt on the part of a woman who has an abortion. Let me explain that. The mental place that she is in, the emotional state, the panic, all of this that enters into play are potentially mitigating circumstances. It always remains an objectively grave and abominable act to take an innocent life, especially that of an unborn child. But only God knows what is going on in the mind and the heart and in the life of the woman who goes into that clinic, Debbie, who is not getting the information that she needs. Obviously, if she were getting that information, it would be greatly helpful. That's why a lot of pro-life organizations like to open up shop right next door to abortion clinics. Because thanks be to God, sometimes these young women will walk in there by accident thinking that that's where they're going to go to get the abortion, and they get shown love, and they get information and resources and an ultrasound, and that can change, like you said, Debbie, their entire future forever. So only God can judge the soul, and so we have to be so compassionate and understanding and show love and mercy to those who commit even acts such as abortion.
Right, and I think there's also a lot of responsibility on all the people around that individual who goes into a clinic. I mean, where's the culpability there? I mean, we're all responsible for each other, and so it's vitally important that those surrounding that young woman. I mean, I really pray for them that they. I don't know. It's a very, very, very strong and difficult topic, but I will tell you that I loved how Gary said, I'm pro-life, I'm pro-life, I'm pro-life. Yes, and we are, and that's what Catholics, how we can really know we're Catholic is if we are pro-life. So we're going to move right along to Mikey in Southern Texas, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Mikey. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Well, you're talking about the voting thing. We moved down here to Southern Texas, and my son goes to a Catholic high school. He's in 11th grade. And in social justice class, they asked, how can we have peace in the world? He would be the only conservative in the class. The answers were, if we allowed more gay marriages and abortions, we would have more peace in the world. Honest to God, this is 11th grade kids. The thing, what we're up against, and I'm not judging people by any means, but it's a huge Hispanic area. And I think they're pretty much all faith and family, you know what I mean? But it's probably 95% Hispanic in the area, and they told him that 92% of them vote with the Democratic Party. So it's a huge contrast. But I mean, I think that's what we're up against is people are just Catholic in name only, and you know what I'm saying? For kids in 11th grade to say if there were more abortions, we'd have peace on earth is astounding. I don't even know where they come up with this. You know, but
Mikey, and setting aside the issue of the demographics where you live and how they vote and so forth, I can tell you that I have actually taught. And did you say, I'm not sure, did you say this was a Catholic high school or not? I presume
it's
not.
a Catholic high school, and
it
his
is.
history teachers, all they talk about in praising is Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
And
enough said.
He's in arguments every single day of the week, and he says, I shouldn't have to defend my faith in a Catholic school. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
I'll tell you what, Mikey, you are blessed, and you better hit your knees every night and thank God that your son is opposing this in his school, because I was just going to say, I have talked to Catholic high school teachers who teach religion. And this one, I'm not going to say where this was. It's a scandal. He says he tries to teach Catholic morality, and the kids are opposed to it across the board. Not one student is opposed to same-sex marriage. Not one student in the class is opposed to abortion. This is what our culture has done to our young people today. Mikey, if you've got a son who feels that way and is able to articulate that, thank God. And I would say to you, other parents out there, just because you have your kids in a Catholic school, don't think that their faith is not being ripped away from them. I know this is kind of digressing from our topic here on the program today, but this is how we end up with the people going to the voting booth who are going to the voting booth today. Debbie, I better let you say something.
Well, I just want to say from a practical standpoint, because I'm a parent of grown children now, and I just want to say that whether you're in public school, your kids are in public school, your kids are in Catholic school, speak up. Speak up. There are children who, like you said, Mikey, your son is speaking up, and he's, getting into debates every day. God bless him. He's a strong, strong young man. But the parents need to speak up. You don't have to take it, and here's the thing. It always astounds me, that the Catholic schools depend on the tuition. They depend on it. So parents need to speak up, go to the pastor, go to the superintendent of schools and say, this is not going to be happening on my watch. These are our children. This is the future of our faith. And it really is important for us, for you to speak up as parents collectively to make a change. If we continue to allow this to happen, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. My children went to public school. I was on the campus of the public school all the time. I was complaining about everything that they were doing. And, it was because of a handful of us very loud Catholics and Christians that our public school remained very conservative in its teachings and its values. And it was only because we spoke up. They never got away with one single thing. We never let one thing pass. Even so much so, I will tell you, I even called the ACLJ, the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulo's group, because there was a problem with religious celebrations at the public school. And I called the ACLJ and I said, hey, we're having problems out here. And they called immediately and told the public school, no, you can't do that. You can't discriminate. And I'll tell you, we have to speak up. If we sit silently anymore, we are going to very much compromise all of the elements of the faith. And like you said, Jerry, and like Mikey said, children are just going to accept everything as being okay. And it's not okay. Go ahead, Jerry.
All right, Mikey, thanks. On that note, we're getting close to the end of the show. Just wanted to wrap up with another caller, time permitting here. Linda has been holding a long time in Pennsylvania, so Linda, we'll go to you next on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. About 2 minutes, Linda, so if you could be as concise as possible, that would help.
Okay. That's not easy for me, but I'll try.
Okay, sorry about that. We're just going to run out of time.
That's okay. I was raised from birth in a very political family, lifelong Democrats, very concerned about social justice, very concerned about unions, workers' rights, this kind of thing. I still feel that way. But by the grace of God, I got married to a Catholic man from a very devout family. And my heart has been changed about abortion. So I know, I've never had one or anything like that, but I know why people, the justifications they use for abortion and the justifications they use to vote for people who support abortion because they don't want to make that choice for someone else, that kind of thing. This is such an intrinsic evil. And I was sitting in the pew one day. The priest had just read the 10 Commandments. And I was convicted in my heart because I know that I had voted for people who voted for death. That I had, do not kill, in my mind, I had participated in that. We need to really focus on that issue in our families and our prayers. We need to pray for conversions of Catholics who are voting again, for people who are for abortion. We need to pray fervently for conversion of heart for our whole political system. The money that's involved in everything, neither party is pro-life, really. They all participate in doing things for money, and that's the bottom line. So,
Linda, forgive me, Linda, I've got to jump in there because, like I said, we're running short on time. We've got about a minute and a half, and we're going to be completely out here. But thank you for sharing that. And you said something that brought me back to Mikey's call for just a minute that I think related to yours. And, Mikey made the point that, the teachers in his son's school are saying, if we have more abortions and gay marriage and so forth, then we'll have more peace. Well, here's the thing. A lot of people will talk about in the church, they'll talk about peace and justice and peace. Well, the right way to order those is justice and peace. Justice first. If you look at there's the Pontifical Council for Justice and Peace. Justice must come first. If there is look at South America. There have been injustices going on there for decades. And what do they have? Nothing but unrest. You've got wars, you've got drugs, you've got gangs, you've got coups, you've got things going on and you see this all over the world. Wherever there is injustice, eventually there's going to be a lack of peace and there's going to be unrest. So we have to work and vote for justice or there will be no peace. And Debbie, that's my takeaway. Sorry for hogging the mic today.
That's okay. It kind of leads into tomorrow's show. How have we become so violent? We're talking about violence in our culture. And Don, and thank you, Linda, and Dominic, and Patty, and Mikey, thank you. Keep the conversation going on take2show.com. But dear listeners, I'm going to stand by this. We are meant to encourage souls to grow closer to God. Let's work on the soul. Let's help each other's souls so they're impacted for the better. Dear listeners, we're so happy you joined us. We wish you a beautiful and blessed day. See you tomorrow.